Is the WNBA on the brink of self-destruction because it can't protect its own golden goose?
Caitlin Clark has decided to quit the WNBA and move on and go play over in Europe. I do not blame her. I applaud it. I say do it. Get as far away from the WNBA as you can. Let that league sink. Okay? Do not help them. Caitlin, get away. I believe you could create your own league. Okay? You could be the fucking player that creates whatever, the next professional women's basketball league. Let this one just go and let Caitlin try to build the next WNBA.
From record-shattering crowds to arenas half empty, when she sits out, Caitlin Clark's story is more than a rookie fairy tale. It's a high-stakes drama that could redefine the future of women's basketball.
And what did you make of Sophie Cunningham's flagrant foul on JC towards the end?
It was a flagrant foul.
You think it's like defending Caitlin or defending the team, or how do you view just how it all?
I view it as a flagrant foul.
That's about the game too.
Yeah, well, I mean, that you guys came for basketball.
Yeah,
Let's talk about basketball.
Yeah.
Come on now.
What do you think of just how you all were able to pull away in the second half, Caitlin in particular?
We're going to the Commissioner Cup Championship.
Let's
That's
go!
pretty exciting. Y'all want to talk about that? Let's talk about that.
What do you think, again?
From her first game, Caitlin Clark wasn't just a rookie. She was a phenomenon. Tickets in Indiana disappeared within minutes, and cities like Chicago and Seattle moved games into larger NBA arenas to meet demand.
WNBA record. This is her second season. And you put the numbers together, that's like 10 seasons. That girl did it in 10 seasons. That means she had one a season.
On court, she averaged nearly 20 points, 9 assists, and 6 rebounds per game. Numbers veterans spend years chasing.
Caitlin Clark is... when Caitlin Clark gets to 10 seasons, she's going to have 100 of these. And y'all can't get a girl her roses. Now, I don't like the fact that she be getting woke because she don't want all these lesbians to be mad at it. At the end of the day, is the woman putting in the work, she's putting in the work.
Every deep three and no-look feed became must-see TV, prompting broadcasters to build entire segments around the Caitlin Clark effect off-court. Her presence was an economic shot in the arm. Her jersey became the WNBA's best-selling item within hours, and networks reported triple-digit viewership spikes whenever she played.
I will say this, when Caitlin Clark was out, they lost 55% of their viewership. So, basically, Caitlin Clark is paying all their salaries.
Local businesses, from hotels to restaurants to transit systems, saw game night booms comparable to playoff runs.
Caitlin Clark is driving the WNBA insane. It's to the point that she may need to step away from the WNBA, have a billionaire come in that has the money to prove a point, and say, Caitlin, I'll pay you $50 million just to see if the WNBA can make it without you. Let's go create a complete different league and expose the hell out of the WNBA just to embarrass this Angel Reese girl that Jameel Hill just said she could go down as a Michael Jordan of WNBA.
Yet beneath the sold-out stands and viral highlights, whispers of resentment grew. Veterans murmured about a rookie eclipsing their legacies, and fans speculated on locker room tensions. It was clear this wasn't just a rookie season, it was the start of a seismic shift in women's basketball.
Pretty much. I mean, at the end of the day, you can hate her as much as you want, but she's brought in millions of fucking dollars, so you should be kissing her ass.
And as perfect as the script looked, the next chapter would reveal a far darker narrative.
Caitlin Clark is holding up her end by being awesome and by being a trash-talking jerk on the court. Love it.
Within weeks, social feeds were flooded with outrage as fans dubbed Clark the league's human pinata. Opponents abandoned subtle defense for brute force, clearing space with hip checks off the ball, lunging closeouts aimed at her ankles, and even an eye poke that briefly halted the arena. The tipping point came when Marina Mabrey barreled into Clark with a full-body shove, sending her crashing to the hardwood in a scene more at home in an ice rink than on a basketball court. Yet in the aftermath, referees slapped only routine fouls on the books, while the most flagrant hits went unflagged, as if an unwritten rule had granted players free rein to target the league's breakout star. Each replay looped endlessly on highlight reels, leaving viewers wondering whether this was chaos or choreography, and whether a deliberate campaign had emerged to rattle her confidence despite growing uproar from commentators and viral petitions demanding stricter enforcement. The WNBA office stayed silent, offering no statement, no reprimands, nothing to curb the aggression. That deafening quiet spoke volumes and set the stage for a reckoning that would shake the entire league. When the referees refused to blow the whistle, Sophie Cunningham decided to take matters into her own hands. A lethal long-range shooter and a Taekwondo black belt since age 6, Cunningham launched herself into the fray to protect Clark, only to receive a thunderous flagrant 2 foul for her trouble. The league responded with a $400 fine and an automatic ejection, but that disciplinary action only poured fuel on the fire. Within hours, an online petition demanding comprehensive player protection protocols had amassed over 20,000 signatures with hashtags like Protect Caitlin and Lock Down the League dominating Twitter trends. Video clips of Cunningham's sacrifice played in sports bars and living rooms alike, accompanied by heartfelt commentary from former players, analysts, and even rival athletes, all calling out the WNBA for its misplaced priorities, swift to enforce uniform standards yet silent on blatant acts of violence. Social media timelines erupted with fan art memes and calls for rule changes, stiffer penalties for flagrant fouls, clearer guidelines for off-the-ball contact, and a dedicated review board to ensure consistent enforcement. Teammates lauded Cunningham's bravery in post-game interviews, while Fever coaches praised her selfless leadership in press conferences. Yet despite the groundswell of grassroots outrage, the league office issued only a neutral statement expressing awareness of the incident, stopping short of any concrete promise to act. When Clark went down with an ankle sprain, no one predicted the fallout would extend far beyond the hardwood. Missing 3 consecutive games, she left a crater in the WNBA's viewership. National TV ratings plunged by 55%, falling from an average of 1.8 million viewers per game to just 0.88 million in her absence.
We're expecting some sort of dip since Caitlin Clark has been out with injury, but I don't think all of us were expecting the entire viewership of the entire WNBA to be down. And this tweet from Christine Brennan really stuck out to me. She said, one player gets injured and more than half the TV audience for the entire league disappears. Has any other athlete ever had that kind of impact on a sport? Golf without Tiger definitely dropped precipitously on occasion, but not like this. This news is alarming for the league, and it's alarming for the league because this is such a crucial year for the WNBA.
Local broadcasts fared worse. Chicago's regional feed dropped by 48%, New York's by 42%, and even markets without a direct connection to her home team saw double-digit declines. Attendance told the same story. Arenas that once rang with sellout crowds suddenly hovered at 60% capacity. Gate receipts across the league dipped nearly 40% in those weeks, forcing teams to scramble last-minute promotions just to fill seats. Concession and merchandise revenues followed suit. Many franchises reported a 30+% slump in game night sales, a stark reversal from the economic boom Clark had ushered in. Sponsors sensitive to audience numbers began to twitch. Advertisers who'd paid premium rates for Clark-centric spots demanded concessions or added bonus airtime. When she was injured, renewal talks for next season's broadcast rights grew tense as network executives questioned the league's reliance on a single draw behind closed doors. Franchise owners fretted over franchise valuations that had soared with Clark's arrival now at risk of stagnation or even reversal if ratings didn't rebound. The data was inarguable. Without Clark, the WNBA lost more than just its star power, it lost its momentum. League executives issued cautious statements, framing the slump as a temporary blip, but sponsors and partners saw the numbers and quietly began to hedge their bets. In an arena built on competitive balance, the league suddenly looked dangerously top-heavy, its very viability hinging on the health and presence of one player. Clark lose relevance, an unwelcome reality that no spin doctor could sugarcoat. As the season wore on, unverified whispers began to drown out hard facts. Social feeds lit up with claims that Clark was quietly fielding offers from EuroLeague powerhouses, teams in Spain and Turkey rumored to guarantee 6-figure salaries, top-tier facilities, and a degree of in-court protection unheard of in the WNBA. At the same time, speculative outlets floated a billionaire's gambit, an eye-popping $50 million payday simply to sit out and prove a rival league could thrive. Without the WNBA, no contract has ever been confirmed. But that didn't stop podcasts, fan forums, and sports blogs from dissecting every overheard comment. And ambiguous social media alike debate raged over whether Clark would make a defiant escape to Europe or leverage a blockbuster deal to spark her own league, perhaps even recruiting fellow stars. Tired of the current system amid the frenzy, the Real story was the league's reaction. Behind closed doors, WNBA executives were reportedly hastily convening meetings to discuss retention packages, enhanced marketing pushes, and potential rule tweaks to woo her back. One thing, however, was undeniable: the mere possibility of her departure had the WNBA scrambling for answers it wasn't prepared to give. If the hard fouls and rumors were bruising the media blitz was a psychological gut punch in studios and on podcasts, analysts dissected every word Caitlin Clark uttered, insisting her trash talk and confidence invited the aggression. An excuse never extended to male icons when she bristled after a late whistle. Pundits called her petulant when she sat silent after a hard hit. They labeled her cold or ungrateful. Any human reaction, anger, calm composure, or carrying on as if nothing happened, was reframed as a character flaw. Contrast that with the lore of men's basketball: Michael Jordan's sardonic grin after pump fake, legendary Larry Bird's barbs at rivals, part of the game's romantic rivalry. Clark's every move, however, was parsed through a gendered filter. If a man basks in confidence, he celebrated. If a woman does the same, she's chastised. Headlines wondered whether her poise was arrogant, while her retaliation was deemed immature. This biased narrative became its own form of targeting. Every clip reared not to highlight skill, but to reinforce a cautionary tale about a star who dared to shine too brightly. As talk show hosts skewered her demeanor, young fans watching at home saw a troubling message: excel all you want, but don't expect to be treated like a champion. And with that framing dominating airwaves, Clark's journey risked becoming less an inspirational triumph and more a warning sign of how quickly the spotlight can turn into a trap. Now, with Clark carrying more than just her team's hopes, she's shouldering the entire WNBA brand. Two stark futures emerge. On one hand, the league could finally confront its dependency and institute sweeping reforms, dramatically tougher penalties for flagrant fouls, a transparent replay review system to catch off-ball aggression, and a dedicated player protection task force empowered to discipline repeat offenders. Marketing budgets might shift towards showcasing the stars behind the faces, ensuring that the next phenom feels welcomed rather than resented. Grassroots efforts born of the Protect Caitlin movement could inform new training for officials, and mandatory education programs might reinforce a zero-tolerance culture for violence. In this scenario, the league leverages the current crisis to build lasting trust with fans, with players, and with sponsors who demand stability alongside star power. But the alternative is far bleaker. If the WNBA's leadership remains mired in silence or half measures, Clark's departure could trigger an implosion. Imagine arenas that once sold out, now half-empty, television contracts slashed and renegotiated at fractions of their current value, and major corporate partners quietly shifting dollars to men's leagues or overseas markets. Young collegiate stars watching the saga unfold may decide the risk isn't worth the reward. Why enter a league that elevates you only to leave you exposed? The result: a talent drain that cripples competitiveness, erodus media interest, and ultimately relegates the WNBA to a footnote in sports history rather than the trailblazing league it has the potential to be. So what happens the day after Clark walks away? Will the silence in those cavernous arenas signal a league forced to reckon with its failures and emerge stronger? Or will it mark the end of an era remembered only as the moment a superstar became the architect of her own escape? The answer will shape not just Clark's legacy, but the very future of professional women's basketball. In the end, Caitlin Clark's next move won't just shape her legacy, it could determine whether the WNBA survives to tell another story at